Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Simply Cyber Live, the Thursday long-form podcast live interview where I get to bring industry professionals from the cyber industry to you to have all your questions answered and for them to share all of their knowledge with us. And we have an absolute delight today. Many of you know him as Daft Hack. Beau Bullock from Black Hills Information Security is going to be joining us today with his fierce beard and all of his great personality. And we're going to be talking about GraphRunner, a tool that he spent a lot of time developing that will take your cloud cybersecurity skills and pen testing, if that's what your jam is, to the next level. We're going to demo it. We're going to talk about CTS. We're going to talk about music. We're going to be covering all the dimensions. So it's more of a fireside chat, but let's go ahead and shoehorn GraphRunner into it. As always, standard rules apply. You got a question? Fire them into chat. I am merely a conduit between you and Beau. I'm not trying to run this thing. I'm just trying to facilitate and do all the things that I do. I do want to say shout out to the Yeet crew. I see all of you in there. We'll explain that to Beau a little bit later. But hey, thanks for being here today. Jonathan Lindsay, Nick Dow, Chris Cahall, the whole squad group. I see you left coast, Nick Barker up in Oregon out there. And Gary Sturgiadis, my man. Good to see you all. All right. This is going to be a fun one. I've already been talking to Beau in the green room. He's just a wonderful person. Let's have some fun, and we'll see where this conversation takes us. All right. Beau Bullock in the house. How you doing, Beau?
Hey, how's it going? Doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. So yeah, questions will be coming hot and heavy in chat. But you know, we're going to kind of ease off early. For those who don't know you, Beau, I watched you recently on ACI Learning, where you'd been interviewed, and you actually said that many people know you as an offensive security professional, one of the legends. You know, my words, right?
Come on, man.
Okay, at Black Hills Information Security, but you started on the defensive side, right?
Yeah.
So, like 30 seconds. Who are you, and what's your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So for like the last 10 years, I've been penetration testing for a company called Black Hills Information Security. Before that, I was doing defensive blue team stuff at a bank here in Florida and a hospital before that. But yeah, that's I pretty much discovered that the offensive side was kind of like where I found the fun in security, you know. So ended up kind of moving away from the blue team side and kind of I think I'm going to be a lifelong red teamer at this point. I don't know if I'm ever going back to blue.
It's funny you say that because I've heard, again, I've done blue, but never red professionally. And I've heard that people usually kind of like not phase out of red, but like offensive security, you end up doing a lot of the same things over and over. And it kind of like loses its
So
zest.
I saw the opposite. I had that happen on the blue team, right? Like I was, you know, especially working in like one role, like you find yourself, okay, well, I'm going to add a new firewall rule today, right? Okay, I'm going to add a new, I don't know, like install a new like endpoint protection software, or you know, like that's kind of where I was at. And I don't know, for me, I get to see new networks every week, right? Because I'm on the consultant side, right? So literally like week to week, you know, I got a brand new network, usually a new set of problems. Usually like brand new challenges to kind of overtake. And it also, you know, we were talking about like puzzles earlier, kind of scratches that kind of puzzle element, right? Because we have to identify interesting stuff that may have not been, you know, discovered before. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So interesting. I also worked in healthcare at one point in my career. I'm just curious. I thought healthcare was one of the best environments if you are looking to like maximize your professional development and skill up, just because a lot of interesting challenges in healthcare. Did you find that that same kind of experience?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say that, you know, broadly speaking, like over the last few years, and both in me being on the defensive side for a hospital and also from attacking hospital networks, I would say that the majority of hospitals that I've seen tend to not have a great posture in a security sense. And a lot of that comes from the need to deploy like, life critical devices and medical devices that are not, things that I don't know, like typical IT admins have seen before, for one,
Mhm.
or even maybe they don't have the power to really like dig into them. But yeah, I mean, I would say that yeah, I mean, it's a good learning ground because you see lots of different stuff. And
Yeah.
on the challenge side for sure, because a lot of those machines run like XP and stuff. It's like, all right, well, how do I protect this, right? Like, I gotta segment it off somehow.
Oh yeah, and I've seen in dealing with clinical staff. I mean, they're in their own world, doing their own clinical stuff and speaking things. I just to share kind of a funny story. I don't know if you ever had this, but you know, when vendors are trying to sell product and Windows 7 goes end of life and they have 50 of the units on their shelves, they need to sell them. They're not interested in like just, writing it off. So, you've got this happened to us. You got this x-ray machine, right? And it takes x-rays and they've got a $200,000 one and a $400,000 one. And the only difference is the operating system. The
Hmm.
clinical staff will take the $200,000 one. They'll take two of them, right? Because they've got a $400,000 budget, and there's no way, in no way, they will ever be like, oh no, like we got to get that supported operating system version. We'll go ahead and burn
Yep.
all our budget on that.
No, just forced to figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned financial services. Is financial services as well funded and as hot and heavy as I believe it is, and how I tell people it is?
I would say that where I was at the bank I worked at, we had a lot of resources to make sure that like everything was good to go. Like I would say that there was not a whole lot of times where I would need something on the blue side and have to like fight for it real hard.
Yep.
Um, and I think it's you don't want to be the bank where like you get hacked and all your money's gone. So I
No.
don't
And
know.
just shout out Gary Sturgiadis, a longtime squad member, also a redhead, requesting a red beard emote. I'll add that to the parking lot items, Gary. Love
Nice.
Gary. So we're talking. Oh, Chris Rock's in the house here. Have you seen Chris Rock talk before, Beau? The guy
I
over at
don't. I
Sea
don't know.
Monster,
Yeah,
Australian bird. No.
possibly.
Yep. So he's saying higher ed's a good environment. I worked in higher ed too. Lots of research, lots of knowledge share, lots of like open everything up, no permissionless environments. So I mean, you probably see
Hmm.
every industry in your current role, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I actually just did a university recently.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go. So talking about your work, let's get into like the main reason that we wanted to talk to you today, and that way, if people just showed up for that, they can get that itch scratched, and then we can continue meandering around the fireside here. So you have recently developed and released an open source solution called GraphRunner. Um, Tell us a little bit about GraphRunner and what motivated you to even make it. And I'll bring up and drop links and stuff while Beau's talking about this.
Yeah. So GraphRunner is a post-exploitation tool for Microsoft 365 accounts. So as a red teamer over the years, we have seen a lot of M365 environments. It's by far, I would say, like the biggest like SaaS service that's used by the majority of enterprises and other companies in the world, right? And so it has become a big target for us, especially on the red side, where we needed the tools to be able to efficiently kind of enumerate an account, pull data, pivot, escalate, that kind of stuff. And a lot of times we will fish somebody on an engagement. And if you use something like a reverse proxy, like an Evil Gen X type scenario where you fish somebody through a reverse proxy portal, and you're sitting in their account, right? So you have effectively like stolen their session, right? You're hijacking their session, and you're sitting in their account, and now you're looking at their inbox, right? So it's like, well, what can I do, right, with that access? And basically, GraphRunner, what it does is it harnesses that session to authenticate a set of tokens that we can use to send requests to the API. So the Microsoft Graph API, that is. And the Graph API is extremely powerful. So pretty much everything you do, Teams, email, Outlook, like pretty much all the Microsoft services end up using the Graph API at some point. And So the Graph API for us as attackers seems to be really, really useful because we don't necessarily have to be like logged into the browser as the user, right? But we can actually leverage tools to do that. And so GraphRunner kind of came from that, right? Where basically we are trying to do things like enumerate an account, find ways to escalate privileges, and then ultimately how can we steal data through the API as well. That's like the gist of it.
And as many of you in chat know, I love myself some retro synthwave. So I do appreciate the nod here, kind of the Blade Runner look and feel. Are you a big Blade Runner fan? I mean, is that where it came from, the idea?
Yeah, if I share some demos here in a little bit, you'll see all the accounts. So my test domain is tyrellcorporation.io.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's interesting. Now, if I just think through, over time, right? With domain admin and the way that Microsoft set up permissions originally, it really became the responsibility of IT to lock down and kind of, it's insecure by default, right? And it's like you kind of open everything up. With Office 365 and Azure and all these things, do you feel like Microsoft did that again, where they kind of made GraphRunner super powerful? By the way, we saw it with PowerShell too, but you see it where it gets super powerful and they're just kind of relying on the engineers and the architects at the businesses to, kind of not shut it down, but like bolt it down and make it secure implementation. So is that because it sounds too powerful?
So what's interesting is that by default, when you spin up a Microsoft 365 tenant, you actually have something called security defaults. Like that's the name of it officially, security defaults. That is enabled, and that actually protects an account pretty well. So right off the bat, like things like MFA are enabled, disabling legacy auth portals, disabling access to the Azure portal. Lots of that stuff is like by default on, which is good. But what happens is, let's say that you have like a CEO or CIO or somebody in the C-suite needs an exclusion, right? Like they, maybe they want to log in single factor from their phone, right? Like they're like, you know what, I can't do MFA. I don't have time for that. And
do you know who I am?
Yeah, exactly. And so now the admins are like, all right, well, we have to make this rule. So what happens is that at that moment when they have to make that exclusion, what happens is they have to actually create conditional access policies. And the problem is that by default, Microsoft actually makes you disable security defaults in order to create conditional access policies. So all that good stuff that kind of comes with a Microsoft 365 account by default actually just gets removed. And now it's on the admins to go and rebuild all those good things. So that is really where we see a lot of the problem. It's like, all right, well, we have to make this exclusion. And on top of that, we have to go re-implement all these good security controls that are already in place. So
with GraphRunner, I mean, it's essentially a post-exploitation tool.
So,
right?
That's how it started, but very soon, we have a couple pretty ridiculous exploitation modules coming.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should have another conversation in a month or two. Or
okay, very good. Yeah, so a full service suite for you.
Yeah,
yes.
So a couple guys at Black Hills have been working on some pretty awesome initial access stuff with GraphRunner now. That I'm stoked to see it actually public. But it's not quite there yet. I'm actually not entirely sure how much we should report to Microsoft. So some of the stuff in GraphRunner we've reported. And it's just like, oh yeah, it's a feature kind of thing, typical kind of response, right? But some of this stuff, a lot of it's like we have to kind of look at as, is this something that's by design, or is it something that is actually a vulnerability, right, in Microsoft service? And that's the thing with GraphRunner, is a lot of it is literally just stuff that's by design, and we're just taking advantage of it in a new and interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, it very much sounds like, and this gets back to kind of what I was thinking with that domain admin. It's like, that's not a bug. It's designed to be an account that can access everything, but it can be weaponized, right? So it really is, that is kind of an interesting ethical challenge that you have to deal with, of developing new techniques and to exploit these.
Well, so and from my side, right, I'm all for anything that's a vulnerability getting fixed, right? Don't get me wrong. We are here to help secure organizations. Like, don't get me wrong, right? But at the same time, in order to really like kind of simulate actual like threat actor activity, like we have to continue to push that edge, right, and continue to push that boundary. And for me, like so actually what started like the entire reason GraphRunner even became a thing is because we were pen testing some customers that really wanted to simulate some like nation state actor activity, specifically as like Storm 0558, which was the one that was able to forge authentication tokens because they had stolen a signing key.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big one, right? And but what they did, right, is they had the access tokens that they forged, and then they were accessing email. And so what we ended up trying to do to simulate that is basically just relying purely on access tokens for accessing email. And so kind of going down that path is when started building out other modules. Like I was like, oh, well, what if we started injecting applications? And what if we started looking at groups? And then that's like really like things just escalated quickly. And we found what I consider vulnerabilities, but it's realistically configuration, the misconfigurations that organizations can make that us as attackers can then leverage.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, just on my own personal experience, between Google and Azure, right, or Google Computer, or Google Workspace, whatever you want to call it, I feel like the Google one is like bubblegum and like kind of like the Apple interface where like there isn't a lot to configure. It's like you kind of turn it on and like that's what's going on. And with Azure, it's like they gave you everything to be able to configure, which is fine, but it's kind of a new skill, right? Like I don't know about you, but in my experience, I found that like the person who's been there 20 years is the senior engineer, the senior architect. So when you move into Azure, they put that person in charge, but they don't know Azure, and they also don't want to admit that they don't know what they're doing. So they just kind of get in there and like turn wrenches, and I feel like it introduces a lot of risk exposure, and no one really can understand that they are being exposed. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I like obviously like I have a lot of exposure to different organizational maturities, right? Like we see like the spectrum of maturities, right? We see organizations that have had guys that have been, configuring AWS and Azure for like 10 years now, and they're like doing a pretty damn good job at it. But on the flip side of that, I've also had conversations with like data center admins that are like, we were told to move this entire data center to Azure, and like, and they're like trying to figure out like, all right, well, I guess I'll just deploy a VM here and like, install these like VPCs and stuff. And so they like are basically tasked with like quickly learning how to do all this stuff in the cloud. And that is really like, it's hard for people to just like transition, because it is different. It is different from just running like an on-prem setup,
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the big mistakes, was like saying cloud's just a computer in someone else's building, because that's true, but there's so much more in the middleware that is new and novel and unique. So anyways, I mean, like someone said in chat, thanks to Microsoft for keeping our job security in place. So Beau, do you want to pull it up and have a little demo?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
All right, cool. Let's do that. And if you got any questions, y'all, I see you all very active and chatty. That's awesome. Keep it coming. Love hearing from y'all. If you got any questions for Beau, please just throw them in chat, and I will do my best to get them to him.
Let's see. Let me make sure I grab the right screen here. I don't even know which one.
How many people are working on GraphRunner? Is it just mainly you, or is there people outside Black Hills who are contributing?
It is so primarily myself and Steve Borsch.
Okay. Let me know when you want me to bring it up.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. There we go. Sweet. All right. Yeah. So I've got a few demos I can show you guys. So this first one it's a demo of a couple group-based attacks. And these are really like, to me, like I would say some of my like favorite things that we were able to kind of find in the Microsoft like 365 world that I think are huge problems that we've been taking advantage of what I'm about to show you on a number of different customers, because to me it's something that like almost nobody knows is a thing. Like the fact that we can exploit like group membership. All right, so
First of
up,
all, by the
go
way,
ahead.
love ASCII art. Huge ASCII art fan. I appreciate anybody that puts it in their tools. Thank you, Beau.
Oh yeah, no problem. All right, so first up, to authenticate the tool, there's a module called get-graph tokens, and here, I'm gonna back it up a second because I want to talk through this. So in the browser here, I got to set this up a little bit. So in the browser here, we're gonna kind of pretend that we fished this user, right? So this is basically the fished terminal, of somebody that we maybe pointed them in an Evil Gen X portal. And now we are literally looking at their inbox because they authenticated, or we were able to hijack their session in some capacity. So we're authenticated as them. GraphRunner, when you run that get-graph tokens module, what it does is it'll spit out a device code. So to authenticate the tool, we'll go through the device code auth, which if you just go to Microsoft.com/device login, it'll ask for that code. And which, if you haven't seen this before, it's just like logging into Netflix on your TV. Basically, you get a code, and then you go take it to the browser where you're already authenticated, enter the code, and now all of a sudden, magically, your tool or your other session is authenticated. So, yeah. So at this point, GraphRunner is authenticated, and at this point, like now we can start to run modules from the API. So let me back it up a second. So if we look at the groups over here on the left, we're gonna try to update a group first. So there's a couple scenarios where groups become updatable, and what I mean by that is that you can change or alter the memberships of groups. And so the way that typically happens, I'm gonna pause it for a second. So the way that typically happens is when actually, like I would say, like the number one way this happens is when you go into Teams, right, in Microsoft Teams, and you create a new team. So anybody in your organization can create a new team, and also, and by default, anyone can create groups. And what happens is you create a team, and with that team comes a group and a SharePoint site, along with the custom Teams chat, right? And you can actually configure 3 different permissions on each group. So you can configure private, which means that like you have to manually go add people to the group, which nobody ever does because nobody wants to like have to spend the time to go, oh yeah, maybe I should just add the people in my department to this group.
Yeah.
No, instead they pick public. And so whenever you create a public group, what that means is that now literally anybody in the organization can join that group. And so that's what this module is doing. It's just finding those groups that are essentially public or have a permission that allows us to modify the membership. And when I say modify it, like we can't go and remove other users, but we can remove our own user if we wanted to. But let's take this next gen team here, right? So next gen team, if we look at the members next gen team, we see Dr. Eldon Tyrell and Roy Batty, right? And so those 2 members, and you can see I could click the button there, right, in the browser. If we go back here, that add members button right there, right? I could click that, but instead, we're gonna do it from the API. And the reason we're gonna do it from the API is because the Azure portal itself, what you're looking at here, tends to get locked down as well. So, a lot of times we find that the Azure portal itself is just like, we can't even access it. If we look at Teams, right? So currently as this user, we only have access to this public team and the Tyrell Corp Teams chats, right? But we don't have access to that next gen team chat yet, right? But we can add ourselves to that group. So invoke-add group member. We need the group ID of the next gen team, which we are not a part of, right? We're going to add that as the group ID that we're going to target. We got to add tokens. So the tokens are, that's our authenticated tokens, the group ID, and then we need the user ID of the user we want to add. Now, the user ID is, a unique ID associated with our user, but this could be an ID of another user too, and that becomes important, which we'll talk about here in a second as well. So you can see member added successfully, and if we refresh the group, we should see that our current user, which is Rick Deckard, right, has been added to that group.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So we add ourselves to the group, and then all of a sudden now we have this new Teams chat. Now, why that's important is because people love to talk about all kinds of stuff in Teams. And like I've had a couple cases now where I've added myself to an IT group, right, or a security group, a security teams group, right. Drop into a Teams chat and search through it for something like password, and have literally found where IT admins are just passing like clear text local admin user passwords in Teams to each other. So yeah, so it becomes a privilege escalation attack at this point. Now,
So,
another. Oh, go ahead.
let me just ask you really quickly, like, so are you like in that instance, did you spearfish like an IT person? Because if like Carl in accounting
Anybody.
shows up in an IT chat, no one's questioning it.
So if they're looking at it, right, like they have to be looking at the memberships, right, and that's and so far, not a whole lot of people are really looking at a membership
Yeah.
for
Wow.
groups.
Okay. All right. Please continue. Yeah.
All right, so this next one is another group-based attack around dynamic groups. So in Microsoft 365, you can create groups that have membership rules. And basically what that means is that I could create a group that has a rule that if somebody is, let's say, like located in a specific location, that we're going to automatically add them to a group. And that could be an attribute on their actual user account. So get-dynamic groups, what it will do is find all the dynamic groups. In this case, there's only 2 in my tenant. But one of them is called a dynamic admin group, right? So the dynamic admin group here has this membership rule, and it says user.user principal name dash contains admin. And what that means is that any user that has the name admin or has that word admin in their name or in their email address will automatically get added to this dynamic admin group. So
hold on. Is this a default group that Microsoft provides, or you?
No. This would be a custom group. Yeah.
Okay. But you've seen this. You've seen businesses use this.
Oh yeah.
Method.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So let me go back. So that this user here, this test admin. Basically, all I did is I invited a guest that I changed the email address to include the word admin in the email address. So, created an account on like Proton Mail or whatever, right? Literally just put admin in the email address, invited them as a guest of the tenant. And now all of a sudden, because they have admin in their email address, they automatically got added to this dynamic admins group.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So now, this external guest account is a member of this admin group. So what that does is it creates kind of like a persistence method too, right? Like I invite a guest, I can add them to groups, and now so that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier with that user ID, right? So right here, where we copied our own user ID to start with, right? But what we could do as well is we could invite a guest user to the tenant and then add a guest user ID here instead. And that becomes a really interesting persistence mechanism because, there's not a whole lot of people that are looking for, I guess, like guest accounts that, have been provided access, right? So what ends up happening is, we'll get kind of called out as being, phished, right? Or user will say like, oh, I clicked on this link and, they might think that something suspicious is going on with their account, and then we'll get kicked out of that account, right? But if we've already gone in and we've invited a guest and then added them to 100 different groups, a lot of times that doesn't even, nobody sees that, right? So anyway.
Wow. And so, I mean, obviously there would be some audit record of that user inviting a random guest to a tenant or to a tenant, right? And then I'm just curious, like in practice, are you seeing that the blue team is like, okay, like this person got phished. They obviously terminate the sessions and refresh the password probably. And then they're like, okay, like we're done here. Time to go to tacos. That there's no like due diligence of what did this user do while they were compromised.
A lot of times, no. And a lot of times it's because there's not really a whole lot of like logging around that stuff too. And so to be specific, in order to get the good graph logging, you have to pay extra, right? It's like it's not like a free feature, right? Like you have to pay for the logs, which is annoying. But yeah, so I would say a lot of times this kind of thing just goes under the radar, right? Like inviting a guest, modifying group memberships, that kind of stuff.
Wow. So there you go. So, I mean, if you are on the offensive side of the house and, your clients are in the cloud, which at this point, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find clients that are not in the cloud. This tool, pretty straightforward. So, I mean, are there any dependencies? I mean, is it just running PowerShell and you just...
It's just PowerShell. Yep. Yeah, just PowerShell. At the heart of it, it's really just sending web requests to the API.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you don't have to bring it down to your victim, right? Like you basically run it locally from your own instance, right?
Yep, exactly.
Knowing you're like a pro, so you probably have infrastructure you stand up, right? Or do you run it
just
from your
virtual
local
machines?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I mean, in the cloud world, right? Like, there's no reason for me to go like, I don't know, spin up like an instance or something to test from. I literally just use VMs, VPN them out, and that's it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if somebody, because we have different, the audience chat, right? There's different skills, like maybe somebody's GRC, somebody's blue, someone's red. Some people are trying to get into the industry and they're just learning. I saw you have your own kind of tenant in Azure. Like, if someone wanted to play with this, like, what would you recommend that they do?
So first off, Microsoft accounts are free. So you can go sign up for a Microsoft Azure account, and a lot of the stuff you can actually do in just the free account. Now, when you start to look at like pulling email and that kind of stuff, you have to have the what is it, the business subscription or whatever, which I think it's like $20 a month or something, right? Yeah. It's not that expensive. It's like $20 a month to get like a license for an email account, right? And then you get all the things like SharePoint and Teams and whatnot. So like my lab, I just have like 3 accounts. I pretty much just use it to test out GraphRunner at this point.
I love it. So is it under active? You had mentioned that some other people in Black Hills are putting additional functionality. I mean, is this thing kind of like version 1 and like it's locked and maybe you make some tweaks for like quality of life or bugs, or are you actively developing and adding more features?
Yeah, as a good time, like as we get time, we're trying to add in as much as we can.
That's cool. So, and I would imagine that you're doing it like as part of work. Like you're on an engagement, something doesn't work, something does work. You're like, oh, I'll just put that in GraphRunner.
Yep. So a lot of it's kind of funny. Like tool development for me has like 100% just been out of necessity, right? Mm-hmm. And like I'm actually notoriously bad at updating things because I tend to only go like and do things when I need to. Like I'm bouncing around from different cloud providers all the time, so like I'm not always in like Azure. I'm not always in M365, right? Mm-hmm. But when I am, I'm always trying to consider like, all right, well, what could we, either change here or update in GraphRunner? And I get, like people open up issues and stuff, and sometimes we fix those quickly. But other than that, I mean, like active development, looking for new stuff, it's usually just like on engagements when we're trying to identify something new.
I love it. So Alex Trapp pulled this up in chat. I'm going to pull it up on stream. So Beau, in addition to being a practitioner, he's also an educator. And through anti-siphon training, which is basically the training arm of Black Hills Information Security, he does offer this Breaching the Cloud with Beau Bullock course. Can you tell us a little bit about this course, Beau, in case somebody's in chat and they're like, oh man, this is cool, let's do it.
Yeah. So I wrote this course again, like out of necessity. So to like, I guess like to give you the history behind it. Like so I have done like pretty much all the different types of pen tests over the last 10 years. So like, started out doing internals, externals, assume compromise, physicals, even wireless, all the things. Right. Mm-hmm. And through doing all that, I ended up getting tasks to a lot of different red team assessments, because to do red team assessments, you kind of have to be like, a master of all things. Right. Mm-hmm. Because we see a lot of different types of environments, and you just got to kind of know lots of different things. Anyways, what ended up happening is pretty much through all those red team assessments over the last 5 years, the majority of them ended up with us in like either targeting cloud infrastructure or ending up trying to get to cloud infrastructure, because that ended up being where the data was or where we wanted to get to. Anyways, so through all that, I kind of built a methodology around just attacking cloud providers. And, it was back in 2020 is when I originally started writing the Breaching the Cloud course, and basically tied in all the different types of things, all the different types of attacks that we do on red team engagements. And then honestly, like since then kind of moved more into just like straight up cloud-based pen testing. into this one class, and it highly targets AWS and Azure, but also touches on GCP as well. And the gist of it is like, you take this class, it's a 16-hour class. I try to give you basically like everything from recon, day one, not knowing anything about a cloud account, up through post-exploitation, pivoting, escalation. There's some GraphRunner stuff in it now. That's pretty much the class. It's an attack class on cloud infrastructure.
I love it. And, for those who are in chat who are like, this sounds awesome. I just want to point out, because, I've run programs and stuff. This is it's $575 a person, which in the grand scheme of things is not that much for what it is. And I would argue what Beau is teaching in this is definitely valuable for a business. There is an easy use case to make to your business to have them fund this training. You literally could ask ChatGPT to write a business case for this, but like, hiring someone to come in and pen test your environment is going to cost more than $575. Having, being able to like take what you learn in this class and immediately just identify at least the low hanging fruit, right? Because like, obviously it's 16-hour class. You're not going to come out with 10,000 hours and be a master pen tester, but I'm sure that you can apply some of the things immediately that you've learned in the class and be like, oh, that's not good. That's not good right there. Is that a fair?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times people taking my class are like doing the things in their own environments, like kind of as I'm teaching it, and they're like, "Oh man, I can't believe I just found this!" Like,
oh geez,
yeah.
So hey, real quick, I'm not sure. Like, it sounds like in chat there's a little bit of performance issues. Oh yeah, look at this, Beau. We're gonna keep on going, but
is it me?
No. Well, earlier, hold on. We'll do this right now, just because the show, we do fun stuff on the show. I'm going to show you a couple things that chat is seeing. We are not seeing it. I kind of ignored it earlier, and but there's something going on. I don't know. So this is going to horrify you. So first of all, this happened earlier to your feed, where your beard just
nice
took over your face,
wow.
like Beast Man, and then and then. Where is it? This just happened a second ago to me. So
okay.
I'm not sure if like you're talking, like, people are listening in on us and we're revealing too much. Like Microsoft is like putting the kibosh on all of this because we're revealing too many secrets. But hey, the audio is clear and everybody thinks that that's good to go. So
cool.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm glad you're doing that education. I for one am like super hot for bug bounties.
Yeah.
I have not done so. Just a little, because I want to know if you've done bug bounties and stuff. But bug bounties are kind of like CTFs, except they're a little bit different. And I desperately want to take Jason Haddock's course. That he's got that like red team methodology course. And then, or bug bounty methodology course. And then Nahamsek's got some really great content around it too. I just want to like take a month and get into it, then go on HackerOne and just like try to get at least one bug, like a real bug paid. I don't care if it's like $50,
Do it, man.
Well, so anyways, so have you done bug bounties? I mean, you obviously got all the skills, but
not on purpose. Not like what I mean by that is like not like in the sense that I've gone to like HackerOne or like or I mean back in the day like Bug Crowd. Yes, I did some, but like not a whole lot. But I have reported bugs to random sites and stuff, like like found like MFA bypasses in Twitch and stuff, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, no big deal. Did you find it through the front end, or did you like look through the source code?
Remember how that one was weird. It was a weird like when you were using like OBS Studio and like I don't even remember like the exact like scenario, but like there was a weird like if you tried to log in the browser you got MFA'd, but if you tried to use like OBS, we were able to get kind of around MFA at that point. It was weird.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. So I do love the bug bounties, the challenges. We were talking earlier about CTFs, and to me they're kind of the same because you're basically doing a puzzle, except you don't know if there's a solution to the puzzle. Yeah. Chances are, but
so that's the thing. That's like so that's why I love CTFs, is because you do know that there is a solution, right? Like there is definitely a solution. It's like you might not know what the answer is, but there's something you need to go learn and then figure out the solution, right?
Yeah. Makes you
But
flex in like different ways too, like things you wouldn't normally find yourself working on.
yeah, so the real world, like actually pen testing companies, is kind of the opposite of that. Like there's not always, a direct way in, and that can get frustrating for sure in certain environments. And that's when we really kind of like take on trying to develop new techniques, right? Like that's when we have to kind of be forced into like finding like, all right, well, this organization is really well postured. What next?
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about CTFs for a minute, because with all of the time Beau has between his music career, his cybersecurity career, his family, his teaching, his speaking, he's got a ton of free time. I say sarcastically that Beau recently wrote a CTF. Do you want to talk about it a little bit, and then talk about like what's going on with it? So check this out, guys. This is going to melt your face. I'll drop a link in chat on it too. And watch this too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I made a new website for myself, just my own personal, personal website, dafthack.com. So I've had dafthack.com for a long time, and it's always just like been a really crappy Google Sites site. And then Google Sites like migrated, and it just like I couldn't even use it anymore. Like I literally like one day like went to go navigate to my site, and it was like offline. I was like, oh crap. so I was like, all right, well, I need to build something new. And then I came across like just this like terminal theme, right? And I was like, oh well, let me start playing around with this. And it kind of like pulled me in. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I can start adding this. I can add this. I can add this this command, and start messing around with it. So I ended up making like a CTF out of it too. I was like, well, all right, what if I added some puzzle elements, right, to my own website? Because I like CTFs, I like puzzles myself. What if I just added it up to my own site? So ended up kind of building a CTF into the site, and it's running currently. There are 3 slots for people to get free access to my class, to Breaching the Cloud. 2 people have solved it in the last 72 hours. Only 2 people. So if you are CTF savvy, please jump on and solve this puzzle so I can close down this challenge. So basically, I really want to, I don't know, like I just had fun kind of making it, and it was just an extra thing, to add to the list of things to do. So
no, I love it. And this isn't happening, but like you watch the number of people in chat, the numbers just going down like immediately as like people are pivoting over to the Daft Hack website. Yeah. So I mean, we just talked about Beau's class, how awesome it is. Alex Trapp in chat is almost through the class and talking it up.
Oh,
you can get a free voucher, right? I said use ChatGPT to get your boss to pay for it, but if you want to just take the most direct path,
there's one more slot.
Yeah, go grab that. Did you like promote or announce that you were launching this, or did people just
launched it a couple days ago?
Maybe people just found it. That's awesome.
No, well, I mean, I tweeted it, right, or I announced like in that sense, right? Okay. I didn't like hype it up or anything.
No. Yeah, you're not like me where I'm just like spamming social media 24/7. It's crazy. No, it's awesome though. So I hope somebody from the Simply Cyber community solves the final or solves the CTF and gets that final prize. That would be wicked cool.
That'd be awesome.
For sure. So so you said you tweeted it. Let's talk about that for a minute. Like what are your socials? Like where should people get you? Like, are you on Twitter actively, or X, or Mastodon, or where are you like?
Yeah, Twitter for the most part. LinkedIn too. You can find me. It's just my name, Beau Bullock. But Daft Hack on pretty much all the things. Is where I'm at.
All right. Yeah, let's pull this up right now. Oh yeah. I mean, this is so cool. How did you get this profile picture made? Look at the profile picture. I mean, it's clearly AI generated, right?
Which one? Oh yeah, that one. Yeah. That one was Linza AI.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I know that one. That was an early one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to drop a link to this. So you're typically talking about cybersecurity, right? But also big, huge musician, right? Would you say you're a cybersecurity professional that plays music, or you're a musician that pays your bills with cybersecurity?
It's probably the latter, to be honest.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what kind of music are you playing, and how can people, if people are musically inclined? I know we've got several people in the community who are on the audio side of the house or
Cool. Yeah.
musicians. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I started out playing metal, like a lot of metal, from basically high school on,
Mhm.
and used to have metal band, that kind of thing. As I was telling you earlier, that it's been hard to kind of keep full bands and stuff going over the years, and honestly, just between family and job life, just in general, hard to keep a band going. Anyways, I ended up during the pandemic just saying like, all right, well, I like all these different styles of music, right? Like I love electronic music, I love guitar music, I love metal, I love just lots of different styles of music, and I wanted to experiment with kind of combining a lot of those elements. So I was like, all right, well, what if I took synthwave elements and metal elements and instrumental like solo guitar, like some of my favorite, like John Petrucci, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Paul Gilbert, those kind of guys, and kind of like molded it all into like one thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then I ended up creating this project that I call No Bandwidth.
Yep.
Um, and
Hilarious play on words, by the way.
yeah, No Band With Me, right? Yeah. So yeah, so No Bandwidth is my thing. I released the first album back in like 2020. I'm currently, I would say like, I don't know, 30% done with the second album. And so that's coming hopefully within the next like 6 months or so. Gonna keep working on that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, I at the soul, right? Like music is my thing for sure.
Yeah, you can see here, nobandwidth.io
Yep.
is where you can catch it. And he's got all his music here on Spotify and Deezer. Listen, I just saw Deezer come online through Lo-Fi Girl. Is Deezer like on the come as like some type of major music platform, or did I
I
just
have no
miss this?
idea, to be honest. Like, so I use a distributor service to just distribute to all like pretty much like all the digital
Yeah,
services,
like click,
right?
click, 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 click.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does all of them. Yeah, like I don't have to even like worry about it. So yeah, it's on there though. So
Yeah, I don't know. Like again, you've heard of Spotify, you've heard of
Mhm.
Pandora or whatever, and
Title's the other big one.
yeah, I
Have you
hadn't
listened to
heard of
Title?
those. Do you find any? I mean, do you find any difference in them, or they're just? I mean,
So
it's kind of
so Title, like their claim is that you get the full FLAC audio, right? Like so you don't get the like I don't know, like 56K audio, like
oh
MP3s.
wow,
You get like the full highest in spectrum audio, allegedly. So
so that's for the true audiophile who needs
al-
to hear it.
allegedly, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there are there are pipes between them and here, right? So I mean, at some point you could have a degradation in quality, but um, I certainly shouldn't talk. One thing that you probably don't know, Bo, that might make you like just shut your camera off before the show even ends. So because I do all this production stuff all the time, I have like mixing boards and obviously mics and XLR cables and stuff, and but I really don't know what I'm doing. Okay. So I have people, the people in the community who do know what they're doing, help me. But occasionally I will touch the mixing board and do things, and they get very upset. Like I really shouldn't. There should be like, the plastic case that people put over their
Yeah,
mixing
yeah.
boards.
Yeah.
I need one of those with like a lock that I don't have the key to.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all good. People are saying that Deezer's dead at this point. I didn't
Okay.
realize that. There's a lot of people kind of talking about the online music scene right now between Deezer and Spotify and Tidal and all these. But interesting. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So do you have? I know you can go to nobandwidth.io to get your
Mhm.
music, but you had mentioned before you're working on a project. Like, when can people expect new music if they're like hardcore Daft Hack fans already?
So honestly, my goal was to release the second album this year.
Okay.
That's not happening though. So I'm hoping within the next 6 months, I'll have pretty much everything kind of wrapped up. One big question mark is how much time I end up spending on something that I'm building for it though, because there's absolutely going to be a rather large puzzle elements to the album itself.
Oh wow.
Um, that because yeah, so one thing that I've always wanted to do is spend a lot of time um doing like auditory puzzles, right?
Okay.
Like not so everyone in the CCF community has probably done like spectrum analyzing, that kind of stuff, right? Like on audio files. But I'm talking about like literally the audio itself. So think like I don't know, Morse code in like snares and stuff, like that kind of thing, right?
Wow. That's cool.
So yeah, so that's something that I am definitely planning on it. I'm just not sure how much effort I'm going to put into that, because it might end up being quite a lengthy thing.
Well, yeah, no, it certainly would. Nick Barker wants to know which programs you use for production.
Mainly Pro Tools is the DAW that I stick with. And then lots of different other plugins and stuff for various stuff. For guitar, Line 6 Helix is the main processor I use there.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even understand the question nor the answers. So, but I'm sure Nick appreciates you getting all that. You talk about the auditory puzzles. It makes me think. Do you go to DEF CON or do you typically go?
Yeah.
Do you remember the year that they had the record for the badge?
Yeah, I have got it on my wall over there.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool. I don't know how people already had record players at DEF CON. Like they were, already listening to them. But that badge was so ridiculous because it was like terrible to walk around with. I remember that is like my second least favorite badge of all time.
I think that was the year that myself and Mike Felch solved the bomb defusing challenge.
Okay. I didn't know that. What's
that?
Yeah.
So we actually got like DEF CON VIP coins because we were the first to basically defuse the bomb at DEF CON.
Okay.
They had a simulated bomb, and it was literally a metal yellow like case. And there's actually a write-up on the Black Hills website that you can actually read the entire thing. But it involved us needing lots of different magnets to like stop the triggers from triggering, and like you have to be very careful because everything was like pressure sensitive. Like if you lift the lid too fast, boom, you do certain things, boom. And so we had to it was basically like this line of people. Yeah, that's it. Yep, defusing a bomb. Yep.
All right, let's take a look. There it is.
So there it is. That's it. Yep.
Where's your beard? You're not in this picture?
So I ended up having to leave early from DEF CON.
Okay.
So I wasn't there for the picture. I'm probably in one of those pictures. Scroll down some. Like doing the challenge.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there I am. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
I mean, like for something like this, congratulations. First of all, that's super awesome that you did it. But like, where are you like, oh, you know what? We need big, heavy industrial magnets. Like, let me just reach in my bag and grab that. Like, where do you get?
You can find some crazy stuff at DEF CON, man.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. No, so that's super cool. I'd never heard of this bomb. What village was that in?
It was near the tamper evidence stuff.
Okay, yeah. I do like that. I do like that village.
Yeah. So anyways, it is a fun one.
Yeah, no, I like that. A lot of people, and I'll drop a link to that story in chat if people are interested in that. A lot of people still interested about the music. What instruments do you play? Space Tacos heard guitar, but Space Tacos, you might want to sit down and like make sure your shoes are tied on when Beau rips through this list. Go ahead. What instruments do you play, Beau?
I mean, mainly just guitar, and I do play drums too. But yeah, I mean, like any stringed instrument really. Like I don't have lots of different types of guitars. Ukuleles, violin, like all kinds of stuff. It's pretty much anything stringed. Like it's pretty like it might be a little bit of a stretch for me to like jump from like guitar to like violin or cello even. But like pretty much anything stringed, it's like very similar esque,
Yeah.
But I would say primarily guitar, drums, and when it comes to the music that I record, I program a lot of it, right? So using like MIDI, I actually literally go through points in time and like add in various notes, various sounds, and drums specifically, I program everything. So I don't use any samples or any like loops or anything like that. I literally program every hi-hat, every kick drum, every snare. Yep, I have to play mean triangle.
Yeah, and piano, can you tickle the ivories?
No, not really. No, I'm not really a great piano player. No.
Interesting. Yeah. Are you you mandolin? Are you like a big fan of like having the whole set?
I have a mandolin. I have a banjo. I have lots of different instruments. It's not something that I go and pick up often, but
yeah. I've seen some really, really great. I told you earlier, I play guitar poorly, but my uncle is like lifelong musician. Like multiple guitars everywhere. Right. That's a sign of a serious musician. But his friend had one. It's like, it's just this beautiful guitar, then mandolin, and then there's another one that's smaller than the mandolin. It's like mandolino or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure. No.
So
Not sure
there's
about that
another one that's like a little smaller or whatever. Anyways, it was like the neck had really ornate artwork done, but like each one looked identical. Like it was built as a set. And, just so cool. Very, very, very interesting things you can do with musical instruments.
Caspian asked 0 samples. So when it comes to samples, I do use some that are mostly sound effects. So like, the sound of like a futuristic like spaceship or something, maybe kind of going by. But I don't loop or use like samples in the sense of like drum beats or anything like that. Like I use like plugins that are that have each like instrument's tone, right? So somebody went and like recorded a snare drum like at each volume level, right? And then I program out those. So drum software wise, I've always been a fan of Superior Drummer, which is it's a drum software that literally like they went and if you've ever used a keyboard, right, and you've gone and like you found like the drum kit on a keyboard, right, and you just hit like the kick drum or the snare drum, it's like the exact same tone, no matter how hard you hit it. They just change the volume level, right? It's like here's the snare drum, but it's like they just change the volume of the snare if you hit it harder, right, or if you hit it softer.
Yep.
But the better plugins of the world, what they do is they'll record a drummer in a studio with a snare, and then they'll hit it as soft as they possibly can. They'll be like, all right, that's the lowest velocity hit. And then, keep hitting a little bit more up to like where they're almost like breaking the drum, right?
Oh, wow.
And you get a much more realistic tone. But what that creates is it creates a much lengthier process of going in and programming in velocities as well. So not everything's just like, black and white, like hitting it as hard as I can, or I'm not hitting it at all. Now you have these various velocities, and what it does, it makes it sound much more human, because humans naturally don't hit things at the exact same velocity every time.
Right. Very interesting. That's cool. And people had been mentioning earlier, it's come up a couple times about making content for your YouTube channel. I don't know if that is cyber content or music content.
Yeah. So no, I get that a lot. So, over the years, I've had a lot of different YouTube presences, I would say. So I used to do like this show called Tradecraft Security Weekly a long time ago. And that was like the, Beau trying to just give away all the tradecraft kind of thing. And then last year, I got back from Wild Hacking Fest, and I was like, you know what? I need to make some more YouTube content. Bought a new camera, got kind of a new setup, and I was like, all right. So, and I pumped out like 5 or 6 videos, and then it was like done. And I basically was like, I love doing YouTube videos. I love doing, demos and that kind of thing. But ultimately, I don't know, like I found myself needing more time dedicated to like building tools, or like right now, like so what I do is I go through kind of like these waves of life where it's like, all right, I have this wave where I was just like on this big one for GraphRunner, and I was spending, pretty much all my time worried about that, not doing like a whole lot of music stuff, right? But now I'm in that kind of like music wave where like I need to write a new album, and like mentally, like I'm focused on that, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm not in that kind of like go and produce like YouTube video content, mindset right now, and I don't know, it's been hard for me to like really, I guess, like feel like it's necessary for me to do that, especially when I'm doing lots of webcasts and talking and doing this kind of thing too. Like I'll just come on shows and let other people post it on their pages.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, I can empathize with you. Making content, YouTube content it's not trivial. It's not simple. I mean, you have to have a concept. You have to have, you're probably doing demos. So you got to get everything lined up. It's a lot of work that happens, even though it's like a 5-minute video, it's hours and hours of.
Absolutely. Especially like editing and stuff too.
Yeah. It can be awful.
Yeah.
But you got some. I mean, a lot of people knew who you were already, but you got some new fans coming in here because of everything you do for the community and for with music and all that. Let me just check really quick. Surprisingly, Beau, not a lot of questions. You kind of held court today.
Okay.
For everybody. Yeah, it was just that YouTube video question from the Quiet Gamer, which I totally appreciate. We're getting right about time. This kind of hour flew by, honestly. But as far as, final thoughts, Beau, or things that, you'd like people to kind of take away from the talk today.
If you feel or you're feeling like you want to do a challenge, go check out dafthack.com and see if you can solve the puzzle there. But other than that, I'll probably catch a lot of you at conferences and whatnot. So thanks for hanging out.
I'm excited, dude. A lot of people in chat went to Wild West Hackin' Fest. I had a great conversation with you and met you in real life for the first time at Wild West Hackin' Fest this year.
And congrats, by the way, on your award.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I've only got a couple things in my office, and this is one of them that gets real estate on my desk. This was completely unexpected and very, very
well deserved, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I was kind of a puddle. I like looking back afterwards. I was like, I should have said something, or instead I was just like, thank you. Like, I just wandered off stage, like just a complete mess. Like I was a puddle. Like I had to compose myself afterwards because of just, all the reasons behind like what this award represents, and, to be recognized among my peers. It was very, very special. But thank you. And I don't know if you know this yet, Beau, but I have been asked and I've accepted to keynote Wild West Hackin' Fest next year.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So
that's
secret's
awesome,
out.
man.
Yeah.
Congrats on that too, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That'll be a lot of fun. And I know you guys are doing Wild West Hackin' Fest Denver. I don't know if it's this year. Is it 25?
Yeah, I think 25. Yep.
Okay. Is the plan to do like Deadwood every year and just have the Denver one augment?
As far as I know, Deadwood every year for sure. And then Denver to be kind of like a growth, I think, right? Like to be a bigger conference, right? Because right now, like Deadwood is like packed. Like I think that we've hit the capacity there,
Secret's out.
Yeah. But I think, John still wants to have that conference and try to have that kind of same vibe, right? Like, cause it's a vibe up there, like it's cool. It's in the middle of nowhere. Then in addition to that, I think having that kind of bigger conference in February of 20, I think it's February of 25. That's when it's going to be.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I know a lot of people are super pumped up about it just because it'll be more accessible to some people.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you'll be doing open mic night in Denver. So if you want to see Daft Hack play live, gotta go to Deadwood.
If I can get the second album wrote, man, maybe I'll play a concert or something. I don't know. We'll see.
There you go. That would be sick. That'd be so cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Beau. Obviously, genuinely appreciate you taking time to come talk to us. I know I learned a bunch today between dafthack.com and GraphRunner over on GitHub. There's a ton of stuff for everybody to go play with and, continue to develop themselves professionally. And let's be honest, this time of year, I know we've all got family. I know we've all got holidays and stuff like that, but like things are a little bit slower. So you've got some time to root around at dafthack.com and get that final prize of taking.
And a lot of it you can just do from a cell phone, to be honest. I mean,
is that you could do it from a cell phone?
I mean, a lot of it, yeah. Like, I mean, there might be some elements that might be a little easier on a computer, but yeah. I mean, for the most part, I mean, you can play with the site through your phone. Like,
there you go. Just jump on there right now and giddy up. I'm looking at you, Nick Barker. I love that. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you very much, Beau. And thank you to all of you in chat for showing up today and giving us your attention. And the conversation was absolutely phenomenal. On behalf of myself and chat, Beau, thank you for being here today. And we look forward to your album when it releases, hopefully in 24.
Thank you so much for having me. Had an absolute blast. And I'm hoping to.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, be good. And until next time, stay secure. If you enjoyed that content, keep the cybersecurity train going by connecting with the other Simply Cyber community resources. We have the Discord server that's lively and always keeps the conversation going. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. And also every single weekday morning on the Simply Cyber channel, we're doing live daily cyber threat briefings, 8 a.m. Eastern time, as well as Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We're doing live stream interviews with industry experts, and we produce videos that we push out every Wednesday morning.